He was watching something very special and having the time of his life.
Oh my
And
God.
five screaming women that had to leave the room. I don't know who was more mortified.
Unhospitality, the #1 podcast in the world.
Welcome back to Unhospitality, the #1 podcast in the world. You see what I did there? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm thrilled to welcome an industry colleague joining me from London, England. Her name is Semrin Wadwa, and I'm going to let her tell her story and how she got into the hospitality industry. Semrin, welcome to Unhospitality.
Jeremy, I am super thrilled and thank you so much. It's sunny and glorious in London.
In the middle of winter, that's saying something. That's not common.
Exactly. It's absolutely beautiful. So went for a nice chilly walk with the horses to get prepared for this podcast. So super
Now,
excited.
come on. Now, no, hold on. Most people go take a walk with their dogs, and you just casually throw out that you're walking with the horses. I mean, that's quite the flex there, Semrin.
They're not mine.
Okay.
Just I met this very elderly couple that lives in this beautiful National Trust Park, and they let their horses run free. And a lot of the families, friends, kids can come and walk with them, nurture them. And it's just a great way of unwinding. And this morning I just woke up and I was like, I needed that, a little bit of a calm moment. And
What a
then
charmed existence. That sounds beautiful.
it is.
There's a whole industry of therapy built around equine therapy where people connect with horses and heal from their wounds. I don't know much about it. I have a friend who dedicates her life to that, but that sounds like almost, you had a little bit of touch of equine therapy this morning. It sounds like.
Exactly that. I'm a big believer in that. I think it's a great point to start. I am, besides working in the most phenomenal industry, hotels that I absolutely adore and love. I'm also a Reiki healer. I teach yoga and I do sound healing. And I think there's no better therapy than being in nature, being with animals. And you're absolutely right. People actually do this as a full-time job to heal people. And it's just a very spiritual bonding when you're out there.
Well, let me ask you a question. Does your hospitality career bring you to the place where you need healing? Let's talk a little bit about your
I think it's more the hospitality pushed me towards getting some healing.
I hear you. So let's talk about that. The name of the podcast is Unhospitality, where we're telling some of the untold stories of this industry. We see the shiny, glimmering buildings and the glamorous, cocktail receptions in the lobby bar. But tell us about some of first of all, your path to hospitality. How did you get here, and what is your current role? And tell me more about your.
Absolutely. I think is glamour, glitter, and a lot of hard work that people don't see. And then a lot
Yeah.
of the stories that get hidden behind. So I'll try not to use any names, but I'm sure you'll be able to guess.
Go for it.
So a little bit about me. I've always been, I love connecting with people, being around people. And when I did international business management, I wasn't sure if hotels was the path I wanted to go down. None of my friends actually went down that path. They were all either leaders in Shell or different huge corporate companies. And somehow I was attracted by this glitter and glamour of the hotel world. And next thing I knew, I had this great opportunity to come to London. So I'm Dutch, by the way. Come to London and work for a huge corporate company. I think this is where Jeremy and I have something in common.
We have common connections here.
Exactly. And beautiful industry. I joined Starwood as an intern student. I went back, did my master's, and then my career path grew. I absolutely love doing, remember when you start from uni, you come with a big head, especially if you come from a Dutch university. They tell you, you're going to go in and you're going to be a director tomorrow.
Sure.
Reality, and the reality hits you, right? So I did all sorts of jobs. You name it, I've actually done it. But I knew where my path was leading me to. People always were like, "You're great in sales. You connect with people, and that's the part you need to take." And I was like, "Oh, really? Don't want to be that pushy salesperson." So I joined the event industry in Starwood. That's where my career started. 19. Oh my god, I'm now showing my age.
Go for it. Go for it. You'll never guess by looking at you.
Oh, thank you, Jeremy. You made my day. Um, and that's how it started. Started connecting, planning Indian weddings. Even though I am half Indian and Persian, um, it was just phenomenal learning about my own culture, which was quite different to where I grew up in Holland, and how we were a little bit more westernized, do I say.
Sure.
We loved it. Loved every moment of it. The stories I can tell, I think we will need another podcast for the Indian wedding season, if you want to capture that.
We can definitely do an episode 2 here with Indian weddings for sure.
And then moved from events into sales very quickly, had very promising leaders to support and guide. And, I wasn't really sure that this is what I wanted to do. So I was like, let's go with the flow, see where it takes me. I left home. I was in London. What's not to love as an 18-year-old living in London, living her best life,
Sure.
um, having a scholarship from the university. So it was like all right ticks boxes. And I was just having fun. And then one chapter led to another and moved me from on property, looking after 5 hotels, to global. I met some incredible people. And before I hit 30, I realized I was leading the whole team. So the responsibility there came with its highs and lows, but at the same time, also, trying to figure out my own feet in the cultural differences. People like, you went from Holland to London. What are cultural differences? But something we can touch on a bit later.
Well, let's talk about that from the hospitality standpoint. You started your career in Starwood Hotels, which is where our common connection came in. I didn't start in Starwood, but I quickly, after about 2 years in the industry, joined a Starwood property and spent a good portion of my hotel career in Starwood. I can't be more grateful for the training and the culture and the ambiance within that company. I mean, look, all companies are companies. They're bottom line driven, and there's no. I'm not going to paint the picture that there was some rosy panacea, El Dorado kind of place, but there's definitely something. And anyone who's worked in Starwood, I'm sure, will attest to this. The storytelling telling culture, the caring culture, they really did an amazing job in my book building a culture where people were passionate about it. I would go to these sales rallies and just day-to-day work within Starwood. There were times you'd run through a wall for the leadership within that company because of the way they showed their care for their employees, the way they showed their care for the mission that we had to provide hospitality to people around the world. Tell me a little bit more about that culture as you started your career. You're pretty fortunate to have joined Starwood. Tell me
Oh,
more.
absolutely. Jeremy, I cannot agree more with you. So 100%. I think, don't get me wrong, it wasn't all rosy. There were some leaders that were, some a bit more old school, but there were far many more leaders that showed that care culture.
Yeah,
Uh, and I think coming up, bringing from a Dutch Indian Persian coming into London, that was a culture shock. In my upbringing, you are rewarded for being direct, asking the right questions, and you're rewarded for being excellent at what you do. However, in the UK, you don't say what you actually want to say,
sure.
and it's not as direct. And if you are good at something, it's seen more as a threat than as a reward. To a certain extent, they feel like, oh, you're showing off. And that was a bit of a cultural shock, where you were like, you should be happy for your colleagues doing so well. But people were like, why, so that creates jealousy, creates the negative emotions around it. And that was a big learning. That was a bit of like, how do you adapt to that? And I'm grateful for the leaders that are still in my life as friends, because they taught me how to find that balance. And, you talk about that well being as well. That made me a better leader, to understand that cultural differences of between being recognized, being empathetic and vulnerable at the same time driving those results. And I have a really amazing uh, example of this very earlier on in my career. Do you remember Starwood did the most incredible incentive for their elite
Where was
And
it? They did have an amazing incentive programs for their
it
top
was
sellers.
like once in a lifetime experience. I think I was quite young and had made this one of the top
Where was the
incentives.
destination for this one?
It was South Africa. It was the
Oh,
safari of
nice.
a lifetime, and you know how expensive
Amazing.
these experiences are. So I took
Sure.
my younger brother who had just graduated from high school with scholarships. I was like, we're gonna go a treat. Now, every leader during that trip, when they finished their speech every night, there were gala dinners and experiences. They will say, you guys should be, grateful for this experience that, Starwood has put together. And yes, you were really humble. You were like, oh my God, I can never afford this on my own. But there was this one leader that stood apart from everyone and who is still in my life 20 years later. And I'm more than happy to mention his name, Kip Horton, if you ever listen
I
to
do
this.
know Kip. Yeah.
And an incredible guy. And he stood up and he said, we are the lucky one leaders that because of you, we are here. And whilst we remain grateful for such an experience, you guys have earned this. So don't leave this room feeling that we have done a favor of bringing this experience to you. You genuinely worked hard throughout the year. Your loyalty towards the company, you're going extra mile. That's why you are the top selected people. And the feeling he left every employee with, the empowering feeling you talk about every sales kickoff you go to, it wasn't a tick box exercise. It came from the heart. It connected with the heart. And till this day, 20 years later, it stayed with me as a leader.
What a
Don't make
tremendous example.
Exactly. Don't make anyone feel like you've done them a favor. That's your job as a leader to guide them, to show your vulnerability and be grateful for them, you know?
And to get out of the way, to empower people and get out of the way and tell them they're the star of the story, not the leader. How many times do we run into leadership who the minute they cross over, I mean, we could take this almost into an immigration status where people who immigrate to one country then try and close the door or pull up the ladder behind them. And this is a whole separate topic of
Yeah.
discussion. But from a leadership standpoint, it's kind of the same instinct, I guess, where people get to a leadership position and then try and build a dividing wall between them and the people they were just serving with a week ago. That idea that you can still maintain a certain humility about where you came from, lead from behind, I guess, lead from a position where you're rallying people and advancing them ahead of you. That to me is a true sign of a leader.
I totally agree. And that's what Starwood did so amazingly. Whilst there were people where you had to fight them for the seat at the table and show them why as such a young person needs that or deserves or earned that. But there were a lot of amazing leaders that pushed everyone. It wasn't just me. There were so much talent. And I always say the best days, if Starwood still existed and hadn't, you know, bought, I think a lot of people would still be there. I would have just been one of them for sure.
1,000%. I mean, Starwood, if for those who are listening who might not know, was in this world of corporate mergers and acquisitions that were bought by Marriott Hotels, making Marriott the largest hotel company in the world. And some, I think sadly, some of the Starwood culture got melded into the Marriott system for better or for worse, but there was definitely a distinct culture within the Starwood ecosystem that I feel, again, I'm very fortunate to have come through that system. And I know you feel that same way too. Speaking of Starwood, I know you worked at a W. You told me before our call here that you had a pretty interesting story with the site visit at a W that went sideways. I really don't know what happened. Tell me the
Oh my
details of the site visit with this W hotel brand, which for those again listening might not know, W Hotels was a leader in the lifestyle brand back in the day where all hotels pretty much were cookie cutter. Here's your room, here's your pillow, here's your front desk. The W really broke out from a cultural standpoint and made hotels cool. This was on the cutting edge, I would say, in the forefront of this revolution that saw hotels going for a more cultural and culturally, how do I say, relevant. So they had cool clubs, cool bars. I mean, they were making headlines just for their design and their system. If you're familiar with W hotels, you probably see that now, no matter what. But they were, if you're not familiar, they were the leaders of this whole whole revolution here. But I'm talking too much about the hotels. Tell me more about that W
No,
experience, Semrin.
absolutely. I think, Jeremy, you're so right. This is the beauty of our industry, the amount of stories we have behind the scenes that we can share. And I absolutely adore the W Hotel, having done a couple of openings for them. And you're so right. W really set the bar high. They made the industry super cool. Everybody wanted to be associated with a brand, stay at the brand. And I have like a million story, and this story is, I think it was just hilarious because when we first opened the W London, there were like queues and queues of people who wanted to come there, wine, dine, have a coffee, do the site visit. Everybody wanted to be seen, be part of the W. It's just created such legacy.
Brought a sexiness back to the
Oh,
hotel industry, no?
absolutely. I think
Yeah,
W defined what sexy was as a hotel. And I will never forget. So a lot of our salespeople, we had to like be, even though we were in global and looking after 5, 6 hotels, we had to be based at W on certain days because just the pure share of clients we had to see. And I organized this very VIP site visit. And when you do the opening of a new hotel, W was impeccable in hiring talent, and it was all good looking people, from the doorman to the front office to everyone. Everybody had to play the part of how we dressed, how we looked, how we spoke, and that was the fun part of it, right? So, and a lot of mistakes happen when you first open the hotel that trying to polish. So we did this VIP site visit of a fashion designer who wanted to host an event at the W. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna lead the site visit, no problem. We had everything ready. And just for people who don't know, when you do these site visits on property, a lot of prep work goes before the site visit, especially if it's a VIP. You know it, right, Jeremy? You
absolutely.
have, you have the keys ready, the right rooms ready. There's an ambiance created in each of the rooms. So they do like a turn down service to show how turn down will look like, or they will create a little party scene or a breakfast setup. They went all out for these site visits. So I had this VIP site visit, everything ready, keys ready. The clients arrived early, so didn't have the time to check the bedrooms, but the front office assured me that everything was ready. So taking this site visit through the W, long story short, I walk into the corridor. And if you know the W London, they had this little corridor in between before you enter the room. Locked the door. There were like 5 of us, 5 ladies, all VIP for this event. And I'm talking through, telling stories about the W and really excited. And now it's dark in the room. And I was like, wow, great. So this room might be the turn down service that they have created. So we
Sure.
locked the room and now we are in this corridor area. And as I opened the door to show them the turn down service, there was a guest on the bedroom.
No.
Yes. He was watching something very special and having the time of his life,
My
and
God.
5 screaming women that had to leave the room. I don't know who was more mortified. We had a great giggle at having afternoon drinks, and I was like, I am in big trouble now, like a huge trouble. So when these incidents happen, and unfortunately these things happen, they had checked in the guest while they had the room ready for site visits. And W was known for, its openness and
Sure.
hardiness
Well,
for people.
not that open though, Semrin. Let's be honest. It's known for openness, but you don't expect to see what you
No,
saw in the in the room on a site visit
no,
that
no, no,
day.
absolutely. But it was, like the mini bar had pleasure toys, for example. That was the
Sure.
first hotel to.
It sounds like he
Uh,
was taking full advantage of the mini bar then.
he absolutely was, and we were absolutely. The funny part was when these incidents happened as salespeople, we had to report them. So we had this black book log that you have to log in these complaints, and it goes to the leadership the next day of what happened in the hotel. So if complaints come in, how are we going to handle it? And we waited the first day, I waited the second day. I told my head of sales that this has happened. The guest, I think, was more mortified than we were.
I can imagine.
They never came. But there are like a million of these stories that we can share on site visit. But
I mean, it's not just you walked in on a guy in the room. You walked in on a guy in a very intimate moment. That I think is the icing,
with 5
and with
ladies.
5 ladies on top of it. I mean, that is quite the story.
Yeah.
N-
No, I think hospitality has a lot of these moments where you just have to giggle.
Now, what happened? Was it just a mix up with the room? Someone had checked in from the front desk and was they checked in
It
a
was
site visit room before you?
pure mix up that they
Yeah,
down one number wrong of the room that they had allocated for the site visit. So, and you have a master key, right? So it opens
of
pretty
course
much
you can get
everywhere.
into any room that you want. Yeah,
So
things
it
that
was
happen. So, did you make the sale or not? Was that did that tip the balance?
that definitely did not take away from the sales. I think people forget to laugh at themselves. We are
True.
not striving for perfection all the time. That's much in hospitality. What I love about the industry is we make mistakes, things go wrong. It's how we rectify them and how we can laugh about them.
Yeah,
And I always say nobody died. It's just a human error. And you can't blame people. You can just say next time you just have to be more vigilant and check in a little bit more. And of course we did. I think the whole team was like, no, I have to check my site visit rooms. Um, but it's a learning, right? It's a learning. And I can laugh about it now. I was mortified for a week. I didn't even want to go into my own office.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine the embarrassment. Now you've also, of course, the W attracts a lot of celebrities and high powered names as well. You've run into a few celebrities in your career. You've told me you've had run ins with Mariah Carey, Prince. I mean, what's the kind of the energy about that? I mean, from my perspective, I know that we had a lot of celebrities come through, and you obviously have to keep your wits about you. You can't be a fawning fan, no matter how much of a fan you might be. But tell me more about the dynamic of some of the context where you've met celebrities in the
Ah,
everyday dealings of hotels.
I think, you know what, it wasn't with the W, but yeah, I have met a lot of celebrities over my career. And you know what, Jeremy? The fun part is they're just as human as us.
So true, yeah.
And they just crave love and some normal attention because they are surrounded by people who either want to say yes to everything they want to do. And I am not starstruck, but I do appreciate the people I have met and have, little conversations. And two of them definitely quite earlier on in my career was Mariah Carey and Prince. And they were both staying in this beautiful, beautiful hotel. This is my time in Holland. And um, like I was at that time working in procurement. So I was given this rider for Mariah Carey and had to source some incredible things. And a part of my mind at that age was like, why the hell would I spend this much money on sourcing a very specific water when water is water, right? And then having a very human conversation with Prince, in his room with the entourage, and we were doing room service, and deliberately I placed myself to be there. Um, but having a very, the entourage are more arrogant than the artists themselves. And I think
That
that
can
was for
often be the case. Yeah.
eye eye-opening experience. They're very humble. I think they appreciate that where the upbringing have come from. But I also made me realize that they have so much wealth that yes, they can get all of these crazy things. And how much of these riders that they put together are actually for them and how much they actually use really made me contemplate and have some of the fun conversations. And we opened the W with BAFTA, and I was the person who was put outside of the smoking room and who knew every artist smoked. And those conversations that I've had previous on in my career were then with a lot of the King's Speech artists
Nice.
in this area where they were drinking and smoking inside the hotel. Remember, smoking wasn't allowed, so they had to create this special room to have these normal conversations and to say, do you really need a £100 water bottle in the room? And a lot of the times they're like, we don't even know it's on our rider. We
Interesting.
don't even know, the special crisps that been listed is probably ones they mentioned that they love. But I think my biggest realization was they're just as human as us and they're craving some honest conversation. They're
Yeah.
craving that honest love and it's fun. Okay, some of them are arrogant and some of them you don't
Fair
want to be.
point. Fair point. Some of them believe their own press.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And not everything you see out there is real. That was, I think, my biggest learning. And then now that I look after sports for many years and I met a lot of sports celebrity, I realized not everything you see out there on social media is
You got
real.
to dig behind the headlines. That yeah, they're it's kind of
100%.
crazy too because I mean, if you think about it, even from a personal perspective, you hear about couples that you thought were the power couple, and then they split or whatever, and you never know what goes on behind closed doors. Well, the same thing applies for celebrities as well. They put on their pants the same way, one leg at a time, like the rest of us. And as much
Yeah,
as we idolize them or place them on a pedestal, um, you know, I found the same thing over the years. If I could boil down hospitality to one essential thing, it's connection. It's building connections with people. And I think in that pure sense, people, no matter your status as a celebrity or not, you're looking for a genuine connection with people. And if you're able to establish that and just be real with people, even on a celebrity standpoint, and not kind of put them on that pedestal, you tend to build loyalty. You tend to build again a genuine connection that people want to come back for.
100%. And I think, Jeremy, you hit a nail there because I think our industry is like no other. Hospitality is super, super special because I feel, from a career path standpoint, you can do anything your heart desires, right? There is a role for that within the hospitality industry. And what I love is the connections you build are so genuine because they're really based on that care value. Because a lot of companies out there, and I left the hospitality industry for a couple of years to work in the corporate role, I soon realized it was a lot of tick box exercise. And I think with the hospitality industry, what I love is that genuine care piece because this is what we are giving you as a service. It isn't about the
Sure.
bedroom, isn't it? It's so many people going above and beyond to give that guest experience, whether it's planning someone engagement party to make them feel extra special, whether it's a birthday, a wedding, or a corporate event, or you walk into a hotel and they have an amenity of something personalized to you and they have gone through that trouble to create that memory for you. So hotels have been doing this for years, that deeper connection, that keep deeper memory. And if you ask any traveler, every single traveler can at least share one story where the hotel has gone above and beyond, and it's the people that makes
Couldn't
them
agree
happy.
more. You know, you said it's not about the bedroom, it's not about the hotel. To a certain extent, it is, right? We're here providing places to stay that some people just want to check in and check out, and that's all they need. They're on their way to the airport or traveling through. That's great. So I don't want to negate the idea that we are providing a service that people need that doesn't necessarily require a deeper connection, but it's undeniable that the ability to connect on a deeper level with people, we're talking about people's, when you start talking about weddings and celebrations, anniversary celebrations that are hosted in hotels. Those are deep emotional events
Yeah.
that you do play a part in providing that space for for those folks beyond the connection among the people who are attending the event. You play a part in connecting with them too, to provide that special atmosphere for folks. But even in corporate events, there's ways that you can find connections, and you just referenced it earlier, things can go wrong. How do you respond in a moment where something goes sideways, where you have to respond? That's an opportunity, I think, to build a connection. Some people lose their mind when something goes wrong, but true leadership stands up and says, this is an opportunity to step in, correct, and connect with people in a moment of truth.
Exactly. And I think it's amazing how hospitality industry stepped forward after COVID. That's, I think, a
Yeah.
true example of the time where leadership had to be strong, had to drive and navigate through such huge uncertainty that hit not one chain, another chain, the whole hospitality, the whole travel industry. And I think those were the moments where the stronger leader really stood out and showed that how can we navigate through these tough times. And we made some certain decisions. I was with Hyatt after Starwood for 6 years and was leading the EMEA team in London. And it was the hardest time when things hit bottom rock, where You were letting go 40% of your employment of people you hired, and then having to keep the people who are remaining motivated and still to drive business. The complaints were off the roof. People asked for refunds, changes, people's wedding being canceled, the emotional burden that you carried. I don't think every other industry was quite cutthroat. Nothing we can do. We were in the human industry. It was about the human connection. We were hearing people. The amount of calls I had to sit through was, it really broke my heart to hearing some of the stories, but there was not much we could do. And people weren't looking for solution. People were looking for a listening ear. And I think that's where the leadership had to step up, not just for your employment, your people, the family situations, but how did we keep it all together? And I think
It's
that was
interesting yeah, it's interesting you say that, Semrin. I feel that that was a moment of crisis that showed the human side of corporations, or it showed their lack of humanity. I mean, there were some companies that I felt navigated COVID with aplomb, with tact, with grace, with humanity. There were other companies that, I mean, it was tough regardless. There were decisions that had to be made, no matter how human and how altruistic you want it to be. Funds only last for so long, and you have to make some certain decisions that are just tough decisions. But how you manage those decisions, how companies manage those decisions, I'll never forget. There was one story that I called a hotel. It was actually in the Dominican Republic, and when business started to pick up again, I had sourced a program and trying to book business down there. This one particular hotel that I called, she said, "Yeah, we never lost a day of pay. We continued our there was a private hotel. They said our ownership had slated to do a huge renovation just before COVID hit. They paused that renovation and took all those funds to continue to employ every single person through the pandemic. And essentially, I mean, talk about building loyalty. Talk about building a sense
exactly.
of camaraderie among their employees. I thought that was such a remarkable story. In contrast to people who the first thing that was cut were talent and staff and people that could go. Now, again, that was a hard reality that many companies had to face, but it was just the way it was handled in some cases versus others. Showing your human side through a disaster to me was a really telling moment that underscored or highlighted the humanity of some of these companies that we deal with on a regular basis.
And I think I'll just touch on that one little story here that you reminded me of now. And I think there were leaders that distanced themselves from this crisis because I don't think they were never, you know, emotionally driven to support employee to that level. They were more
Yeah,
the tick box exercise done. And at that time, we created a committee of well-being. And coming from a well-being background, I'm a big believer. Your vulnerability as your leader is your biggest strength, and creating that safe spaces for your employment is super, super crucial. So we were part of this well-being committee, and we were sending out all these emails and were going out, and it was like, we were getting this bombarded with the email that we care about your mental health. Here is a meditation link. You do this, do that. But did the employment really wanted that kind of a well-being? We never questioned it. Well-being is such a personal question because what is relevant for you, it isn't relevant for me. And when we were slowly coming out of COVID, doing all of this really made me question, what does well-being actually mean? What is it that I need to do more to support the people around me? And that was the time when I left Hyatt to work in a well-being consulting role to understand, what does that mean? Because when we asked this question around a lot of the corporate companies, well-being for a mother was that she can still stay at home, work from home, and be able to pick up her kids. A
yeah.
well-being for a single person was that they can still have that community feeling or be with those individuals at least once a week in the office. For a young person who just came out of the university, wanted a support system behind it. So well-being meant so many different things to different people. So throwing a bucket of saying, we need to look after our well-being, now it has changed. It's a couple of years down the road, people are really understanding what that factor means. And of course, I loved hotels too much. So I brought that element of learning back into the hotel industry. And now, as a managing partner of a beautiful, beautiful company founded by two of the most amazing business partners, I think we try to live and breathe that motto every day,
Yeah.
and try to create a mini Starwood, I say, where we can share stories, we are vulnerable, we collaborate together, and create that safe space so everybody can be there truly themselves. And we work hard, we have a great laugh, and I think that's what it is about.
I'd like to
And
finish in a few minutes talking about your current company, but you're touching on a point now that I love: keeping it light, keeping the atmosphere, especially tailoring perhaps your
Mhm.
approach to each individual. It's idealistic. It's not always possible when you're dealing with a staff of 50, 100, 1,000, whatever the number is at your hotel. But the approach to really hone in and make your care, your space that you provide for your employees unique and individual for each one, I think is beautiful. But talk about keeping it light in the office. Talk about some of the pranks you see go on behind the scenes, some of the things that we, you know, keeping that fine line between HR safe and HR forbidden. There are definitely sides to the hospitality. We sometimes spend, in fact, we do spend in many cases more time at the hotel, in our offices, among our colleagues than we do with our own family and friends. Tell me how you keep it light and some of the things you've seen over the years that,
oh boy, I'm going to get in trouble for this one.
well, you
Uh,
don't have to name names, but we love to hear the stories that keep
Jeremy, let me
the
take this.
offices entertained.
Talked about glam and glitz in the beginning,
Yeah,
and that's the world that people see. You're always whining and dining, and you're in the great places and with great clients. People don't see the hard work, the sheer long nights, constantly on flights, planes, missing special family events,
man, isn't
um,
that the truth?
and people miss a lot of those key moments because the job is quite demanding. Hotel industry is 24/7. It doesn't sleep. You're right. We spend so much time with these people. So you have to keep it light. We keep the momentum going and we have a great laugh. And couple of the pranks we played on each other, which is absolutely hilarious. And this is not just with the people on the same level, also with your bosses, because you have to create that dynamic going. And reminds me of two really funny stories. We had someone in the team who was anal. When I say anal, about everything, everything meticulous, all the folders needs to be immaculate, everything, time management, all of that, everything is
Touch of
fine,
OCD in the office. Yeah.
like next level, right?
Okay.
And then this person goes on lunch. And normally when you lock your laptop, it takes about good 30 seconds before the laptop locks. And that day we knew we were going to pull something off from him just to see the reaction. This person went for lunch and we had figured unlocked, didn't let the laptop lock basically.
Okay.
And what we did is we took all the emails, we created a WTF folder, and
Okay.
we put all the emails in the WTF folder. When this person came back to the office, I wish I could explain the expression on this person's face. And we were all praying, oh my God, what happened? Let's call IT. Don't worry about it. And then finally, after 5 minutes of recording the expression of this person, which could have been on a candid camera, was absolutely
So hang on, you hid all this person's emails in a WTF folder so that when they went and logged back into the
it
emails, they
was
couldn't
nothing.
see there was. Oh my god,
Freak the hell out of this
I'm
person.
not even OCD, and I think that would give me a touch of anxiety myself. I don't know what I would do if I went into my
But
inbox and
this
saw no
wasn't the
emails.
worst part. The worst part was we had this huge gift delivered to the office. And you know how the little thermocol pieces, the little tiny ones, were wrapped around this gift. And we
Okay,
thought how hilarious it would be if we put this in our boss's car, like
okay,
fill the car with thermocol.
okay.
So he always used to pull pranks on everyone in the team, like literally everyone in the team. So we decided this is
It
exactly what
was
we're
his
going.
turn.
It was his turn. So the whole team, we took as much thermocol we could find with all these gift packages that were coming in, the little tiny ones.
They're like the
Uh,
little peanut, like the little styrofoam.
exactly,
Okay,
exactly. We convinced, we were friends with the garage guy, and we took the key and we started filling the car and filled the whole car with white thermocol. I think it took him He was cursing
I'll
the
bet.
out when
I'll
he
bet.
had to go back home. And I think the whole team got messages, but the next day he was laughing. He's like, I earned that, didn't I?
That's a good prank. That's
Funny.
a good prank.
You're right. Yeah. So you have to keep it light. You gotta have
I
fun. You
agree.
gotta laugh at yourself. And I think we're not saving lives, even though we feel some days, but this industry is about creating moments, creating these special moments internally with people that you're stuck with for hours and hours and hours. I have a lot of friends that met through this industry and are now husband and wife and have beautiful kids together just because of the sheer amount of time they have spent together. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, well,
Well,
yeah,
happy employees and people that you feel connected with to your colleagues, if you're connecting with them, that spills over, I think, into your guest experience. If you're providing an atmosphere where people are happy in the office and happy behind the scenes, the
correct.
guest is going to feel that. The guest will feel that camaraderie. The guest will feel the connection. We started the conversation talking about culture and building a culture where people feel welcome and warm. It starts in the office. It starts behind the scenes. It starts in the front desk. So I think that connecting with your colleagues is just as an essential part of the hospitality industry as
Yeah.
connecting with the guests are.
As they say, happy employees, happy guests.
Yeah, that's it.
That's just the motto. So yeah, and
That's it. So
it's
speaking of mottos, Samrin, tell me more. You started to touch a little bit about Eighth Floor. Tell me more about where your career path has led you to today, what you do with Eighth Floor, what is Eighth Floor, and how do you continue your role within hospitality as we speak today?
right. So I think people who know me know that I always wanted to have my own company. People knew that that will eventually will be the path I will take. So Starwood hired a well-being consulting company to, Eighth Floor. And I'm one of the managing partners at Eighth Floor. It was founded by two amazing, amazing leaders that have been friends for many years. And it took them 5 years to convince me to join as the third wheel, I call it.
Well,
So
what is
Eighth
Eighth Floor? Start there. Yeah.
So Eighth Floor is a representation company. So we represent about 45 luxury lifestyle hotels. So as coming from global background, all of us, we know the importance a global team plays in running, supporting the hotel and building strategy. Eighth Floor was formed with that motto in mind. A lot of the independent hotels that don't have the financial backing of a big chain like Hyatt, Marriott, Starwood, and so forth, they need that support. They need help with strategy, intelligence, trends, doing the sales, marketing, PR. So we are that one stop shop basically for them. We do all segments from, I think we are the only representation company that does all market segments. We specialize in your M&E, your leisure, which everyone does, but we do sports, entertainment, Middle East. Those are our specialty markets that we touch on across UK and Europe. So I think that's really makes us stand out. We are quite particular about the hotels we take on board. We always say the hotels that are part of our portfolio are the hotels we all pride ourselves in staying at, and hotels that tell their story, that are still
Beautiful.
indigenous and that have kept their authenticity alive, and they deserve to be heard. They all have a story. They might not have the bandwidth to tell that story. That's where we come in. We tell their story and we take it global. So we're
That's a
very
great way to summarize it. So these are independent hotels, all with unique footprints and unique characteristics that might not have a larger connection to a bigger company to tell their story. So you form an association to join these companies and tell their stories on a larger scale. Is that a fair way to put it?
100%. We become their global sales team,
Amazing.
and I think we always strive to do justice to their story. And that's why we have a large team to make sure that every hotel gets the love and attention that they need and desire. So,
Amazing. Well, Semran, this has been such a enlightening, funny, thrilling conversation. I'm glad you took the time to join us here on Hospitality. Thanks for spending your time with us, and I wish you nothing but success in Eighth Floor as you continue this wonderful journey, connecting people and providing that the healing that you talk about in your all of these things that come together to kind of make us into who we are today in this hospitality space. I think none of the experiences we've had up to this point go to waste when we're bringing care and providing connection to people. You, I think, are the picture perfect representation of how all the experiences you've had in your life bring you to this place where you're able to provide amazing service and connections with people within the industry. So thank you.
No, thank you, Jeremy. And, I'm super excited where Unhospitality goes and really, really
Spread the
humble,
word. We're
grateful
just,
for you.
of course. And you, speaking of grateful, I would be remiss to not mention the gentleman who put us together, who was going to be my partner in launching this podcast until life took us in different directions, and he had some various commitments with his company. Gary, thank you for connecting me with Semrin. I'm so thrilled that you're in my life, and there's always a microphone open for you, Gary, whenever you're ready to talk yourself. But
Absolutely. I think him
yeah.
and me on the microphone, I think you will need a couple of hours for sure. And as we have so too many stories to share, but
We will open up that space. Don't you think we won't? We love it. So, Gary, shout out to you. Semrin, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, guys, like us, follow, give us all the love you can spare. And until next time, safe travels.